few weeks ago. We have our co-hosts back, Dr. Primrose Cameron Hall and Madam Josie Stumpf, our Teacher of the Year for Volusia County. So I do want to make mention of the fact that we are continuing with our photograph, which will be pictured at the top of the screen from staff, which illustrates and addresses equity as we wish to use sort of as a centering point. If any of you were not with us before, if staff will go ahead and post that picture. It is a picture that some of us have seen before, but that is sort of the barometer by which we want to return if we feel as though we get off center. And when you have a discussion like this, it can go any place at any time. And so when we lose our way, let's just go back to that point. So with that being said, there are several things. I did send out some questions or some thoughts and things that I wanted you all to just be considerate of. If our facilitators address them, that's fine. If they do not, that is also fine. We will sort of visit them in a way at the end where I want to tie some things together and show you where we're going as a community. Because my goal is to empower people to be able to overcome inequity in our community, regardless of their circumstance. If you're a female and you feel as though you have inequity, if you're of a certain, any sort of background where inequity might exist, we want to offer tools in this community to help people to address them. So without any further delay, I would like to turn this over to our fabulous co-presenters, Madam Josie Stumpf and Dr. Primrose Cameron.
Lady. Hey, how are you? I'm so glad to see everyone. Just want to reiterate the warm welcome of coming together, especially during a time that, you know, a lot of us, our minds are a little here, there, and everywhere as we think about the safety of our families and the safety of our loved ones and those that we're connected with and to. And so I know through all of that, you know, there are probably hundreds of people out there that say, why are we even doing this work? Why does this particular work, why is that even important, right? Don't we have bigger things to worry about? And I would just share with you that it's a part of our everyday lives. And if not us, then who? And so I want to thank you for being a part of the us and helping us move forward in this work. So Josie?
Yes, I'm so excited to be here. I apologize for the sound in the background. I am at the school today in meetings, but I am encouraged by how many are joining us today and looking forward to the work we're going to do together. And I'm glad all of you are here. Thank you for being a part of this journey with each of us.
So for those that we can see the video, we're so glad that we're on the Zoom platform.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
It was a little challenge with WebEx last time. So I'm very, very excited about this. So with just a show of hands, how many of you received the questions prior and had time to kind of mull over them or have further discussion with colleagues? Oh, excellent, excellent. Good. So we actually can start there. You know, one of the things that we talked about in planning this next session and the next phase was the next steps. Like, what are we going to do? I find that more and more that we're in these conversations and we don't necessarily leave with actionable items. We leave with good conversation, right? And we kind of dive in on things that we'd like to do or things that we've heard of, but not actually the charge that Mayor Henry has set for us, which is we will do. Right? We will create opportunities to have more options for those who feel inequities in their places and in their spaces. So one of the questions that we had posed, and I see a couple, maybe universities and businesses alike shown here. One of the questions we posed was, did anyone have a equity guidelines in your facility or on site or within your organization that you'd be willing to share some of the tidbits, the highlights of, not the entire?
And is it okay if I start with what I
yes,
found for Volusia County Schools? I did find there's a whole area in their site dedicated to equity and equity standards. A lot of what I found about equity was making sure that the number of students in the different classes were equitable, not as much making sure that the curriculum was equitable. And what I mean by that is that our curriculum is diverse and representing diverse cultures. And so for me, I know that was a focus that we'll talk about throughout this meeting, but where I would like to focus my work with Volusia County Schools. But equity, there were several different parts to it. I have it pulled up. I don't know how to share on here though. I don't think I have those rights, but I am happy to share the website with everybody. There's not a chat box in Zoom, is there?
Yeah, well, there's a chat box, yes.
So
Yeah,
I'm
you can
gonna
put in the
play
chat.
with this and I'll put it in the chat box, the website, so that everyone has access to it. And it does have every year, our equity guidelines are updated and there are actionable and standards that are being worked on continuously that were not set yet also within that packet. So I'm gonna share that website in the chat box now.
And Josie, you said there are some areas that I'm going to work on. So what ownership of that? What does that look like for you?
And for me, we need to build equity in our curriculum. So not just the number of students that are taking courses, but my history curriculum needs to have equity within it. I have been doing interviews with students the last 2 days, 6th through 10th grade, for a workshop I'm getting ready to do next week with teachers. And a student today, on her own accord, talking about her curriculum and what she's learning in school, she said, I feel like the curriculum is whitewashed to the point where I am becoming whitewashed. And that a 10th grader used those words. And we talked about what could teachers do to make this better. And she said, I do not see myself in my classroom ever. I do not see myself in my textbooks. I do not see myself in my work or in novels that I'm reading. So that is where I am starting. I know the new best standards that have been released do have more built into them, but what can I take ownership in the classroom as a teacher to build resources into my curriculum? So that's where I'm starting. And next week is our first workshop, Culturally Responsive Classrooms. So hopefully
Awesome.
It's a good response.
And you're facilitating that?
I am, yes.
Oh, awesome. Also, Josie, I keep calling on you because I know you're leaving soon. So I want
okay. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm jumping on the reason I'm leaving is because our school has started a diversity and equity team built of different stakeholders within the school and on campus so that we can come together. What can we do? We cannot ignore this when we come back to school. There has been a renewed call to action. So at 2:30, that meeting starts. So, and that's part of the work I'm doing here is to be involved in that in my school campus and county. So that's why I'm jumping off. So sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, and then one more area. I know you're doing the book club also in the area.
I am.
And if you could kind of share a little bit more of that.
Okay, so and that book club right now, we're sitting at 89 members. It is on Facebook, Justice and Education, and it is the full realm of education. We have heads of PTA boards in there, child psychologists, it is very vast with the expertise within the book club. But the reason I chose Justice is because when we're talking equality is leave it that set it and forget it, same standard for everybody. Equity, building that diversity within so everybody can reach success. But Justice is that ultimate goal, that long-term goal of bringing down those barriers so we're all on that same footing. So we are studying right now, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? It is a phenomenal book. We are diving into it. We're having real conversations. So if you're on Facebook and would like to join us, please, it's Justice and Education. And we're, all of our plates are full. So we're just taking a bite at a time, a chapter a week. I do have coming in to talk about elementary self-identity and elementary and adolescent, on the elementary level. Sydney, who is a top 5 finalist for the state of Florida. Dr. Dre Graham is a guest speaker. He is the Florida Teacher of the Year 2020 right now. He also just got accepted a position with the state for education. He is coming in to talk about adolescence because he was an adolescent teacher. And Mr. Henry is going to talk about self-identity in adulthood as a special guest. Thank you, Mr. Henry. So, okay.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so thank you so much for
You're
sharing.
welcome.
Does anyone have, before we move on to Patricia Boswell, does anyone else have any comments based on anything Josie has mentioned? Even when we think about, as the educator, changing the way that we teach, right? And we're talking about ensuring that equity is seen in our classroom, or that the student is seen in the classroom. Does anyone have any additions to that conversation at all?
No. Can you hear me?
This is this is Barry Butler at Embry-Riddle. Hi, I just want to say a few words. Obviously, it looks like mostly we have the K-12 community here,
Yes.
but obviously higher ed is an important part of our community as well. This isn't with respect to sort of guidelines and everything else, but I'll just share a few things. You know, we view ourselves as sort of a pipeline to careers, and careers are obviously, you know, careers in education are enablers in any society. And so we're working on ways to try to make sure that our students, when they're here, they see themselves in the profession. And that means identifying leaders from industry, from the military, from other areas, other walks of life, and trying to bring them into the classrooms. And we've got some new initiatives in those areas in terms of, obviously a lot of it's going to be virtual for the next year or so, but trying to bring, last year we had one of the highest ranking African-American Air Force generals ever on campus to just, be present and talk to students and give them a feel for what it's like being in the military, for the last 30, 40 years. And so we bring in people from industry. We bring in HR people to talk about what it means to work in a very diverse community once you graduate from a college or a university, and how important it is. So we're really kind of working a lot on those angles of trying to introduce the students to what's the next step in life when they finish their college degree. We've got some really good people on campus building programs around that, and I look forward to the day that we can go back to doing it in person. But we'll do our best with virtual means here in the coming year. So just wanted to share that, because I think it's important, regardless of the level of education, whether it's K-12 or college. The idea of seeing individuals, as Josie said, seeing individuals that you can identify with and set your career goals towards in this case. So I just want to share that.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Butler. I know I had called Patricia Boswell, please, and then Michelle McCoy.
So when you, the question about the standards of equity,
Yes.
I used a much more global, I sit on a couple of these sessions. So, and from a public health perspective, it's certainly about making sure that all of our residents, regardless of their race, ethnicity, gender, income, neighborhood of residence, or other characteristics, are fully able to participate, contribute, and connect. And I think when I think about the education component, does education lead to employment for everyone? And then do the workers have the education and skills needed for jobs of the future? And that to me is essential. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Patricia, did you share, I didn't hear which school or university you represent? Oh, I can't hear you.
Florida Department of Health.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, Michelle McCoy. And then Karen.
Hello, thank you so much. This is my first meeting. I'm very excited to hear what has been said so far. This is awesome. So I'm also in Volusia County Schools. I teach at Campbell Middle. I'm the school librarian, but I'm also active in Volusia United Educators, our teachers union here in Volusia County. And we're doing very much similar work to what Josie's doing with her school within the union itself. We're having with our Human and Civil Rights Committee very similar discussions. And one of our big areas of focus is how do we deal with this whitewashed curriculum? How do we get things to be on a more level playing field for all the different people? So this is awesome. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to hear more about Josie's work. I may just be emailing her on the side to check in with how things are going over there, because that sounds amazing. Thank you. Thank you. This is awesome.
Thank you, Michelle. And I'll be calling on a little later when we start talking about the resources. And I saw that Mayor Henry posted to share resources, and I want you to share a little later on some of the work that you're doing. So thank you for that. And
Michelle, I look forward to hearing from you too.
excellent. And next we said Karen, and then Tom Labata.
I am not an education professional, just as a consumer, but at Our Lady of Lourdes, we did a book club, Waking Up White, and most people were my age, old, and we were stunned at how whitewashed our history was. We did not learn about how GI veterans coming back from World War II were denied the GI Bill, also the housing assistance, also redlining, also urban renewal, and we were just stunned. And I have friends in the Black community, a financial advisor to, give life to the words. And he was stunned. And one of our participants was a history major in college. And we did not know that. So I think teaching the young people the history that really was is very important. And they can probably go home and teach their parents. Thank you.
And they'll definitely be writing history, right? Because just the time that we're currently in, this is their history. And so we're hoping that we don't do the same thing of what we've done before, is eliminating that, right? And that the stories are told and the information is shared. So thank you so much, Karen. And I've read that book, Waking Up White. So thank you for sharing that. Tom?
Hello. Thank you. Good to see you, Primrose.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, Mayor Henry, thank you for putting this together. And I'd just like to comment on some of the things we do here at Daytona State, and looking at the points that were brought to us via Sherry. At Daytona State, we do we have a diversity committee. We do an annual equity report that covers employment, students, and Title IX. So we do that annually, but it's more than just doing the report. We have actionable things we do throughout the year, and we continue to evolve those programs and activities. And I have an equity officer that is at the college, Lonnie Thompson. We have a diversity committee, an equity committee. If you walk into our buildings, you would see, where Lonnie has a poster that talks about his office. It's posted on, I think, in every building we have here on campus, on all of our campuses. So that's kind of what we currently do. But some of the things we've done since May 25th in terms of we have I've had a meeting with we have the Law Enforcement Academy here at the college. So one of the things I did, I volunteered, and I was selected. I think I'm one of 6 or 7 of the college presidents for Florida, the Florida college system, to be on the President's Equity Task Force for the state. And part of that is a branch on law enforcement that I think I'm going to be on that one as well. So I had a meeting several weeks ago, a month ago, with our own police academy administrators to talk a little bit and bring me up to speed on some of the things we do and training and things like that. And then I had a meeting with Commissioner Juanita May that was not really talking about law enforcement so much, although in that conversation it came up, and we were talking more about access to Daytona State for the minority community. So we had a good conversation there. But with our police academy, I asked them to think about things, and there's things like, you know, the chokehold, for example. You know, I asked that question, and it's not something we teach. And my, you know, as I got up to speed on it, the chokehold is something that is on a menu of things you can choose to teach or not to teach, is my understanding. And we've chosen, for as long as we can remember, talking to Sheila Ellison, who's been with us for 20 plus years, we just do not do not do that. So that was just for me to know, you know, what are we doing in our academy on that particular item. So we get to choose a little bit on a menu of things for training. I asked about, just to share with you, is there things like mental health taught as part of our curriculum, sociology, psychology, de-escalation, and all of those things are taught in our academy, and they're woven throughout the curriculum. So, you know, and then I ask, you know, what else can we do? Is if there's anything we can add to our curriculum in the area of sociology and mental health and de-escalation. And the way it is, and this is, I think, one of the nice things about me being on the state committee, you know, we are prescribed the amount of hours that the Law Enforcement Academy is by FDLE. So, so if we were to add, say, additional hours to our program because we felt it was good, we can. The only stumbling block at the moment would be it makes the program longer, which isn't an issue, but it's not covered under financial aid. So the question is, how do we do it if we want to add to it and have that covered for students? So these are the conversations we're having on that topic. But then I went a step further to say, how can we better connect with the community? And we're starting with Daytona Beach. Obviously, you know, our biggest campus presence is here. So we've talked about, you know, having you know, how can we connect our law enforcement program with our community? So we are talking and brainstorming about creating volunteer hours within our academy that we can have students go out into the community and volunteer. So out of that meeting with my own crew, we had another meeting earlier this week with Chief Capri and Deputy Chief Jakari and our Law Enforcement Academy, our Associate VP, to talk about, and we also have just hired Sheila Ellison. If you know her, is the director of our Law Enforcement Academy. She's retiring, and we just hired the Deputy Chief out of New Smyrna Beach. Jessica Paul will be taking over the reins at the end of the month of August. So we asked her to come into the meeting too. So we talked about things like that with the chief and deputy chief about, you know, I said, you know, how can we connect our law enforcement program into the community? And things like, you know, there's the PAL program, there's a tutoring program. And so we have resources where we can maybe help and get our students that are in the police academy themselves connected, as well as faculty and staff. So, you know, there's a lot of really good things. And so, again, like you said, Primos, I don't want to walk away with a good conversation. So I've asked them to put thoughts on paper and begin to bring proposals forward. Exactly. So that we're going to be able to look at those proposals. You know, Deputy Chief Jakari, you know, we kind of went around the table and he's like, you know, I'm absorbing this. I like everything I hear. He's had he said, you know, I think, you know, some of the things we want to do in the community, we may need to look at the timing of it all. And it made a lot of sense, you know, so, you know, and I said, that's where we're going to lean on you all to help us with that timing and things like that to go back into the community. Some of the things on campus, though, that we can do sooner, you know, I think is things that, you know, we talked about our own history at Daytona State and the fact that we merged with Volusia County Community College, which was the all-black community college in 1965 merged. And we have a building named after the president of the college at that time. So we're going to do things to maybe do a rededication, for the building, and to, again, bring out our history that about how we became. Mary McLeod Bethune also was very instrumental in us getting the property here at the college with Mary Carl. And that came out in, when we did a celebration for Mary Carl earlier in the year. Those kind of things. And the other thing that, we want to remind people, obviously I know I'm the president, I read the history of the college, but a lot of people don't know that our mascot's the Falcons, and we were the Scots. Why are we the Falcons? We, I think it was in the 80s, we took the Falcons as our mascot because that was the mascot of the Volusia County Community College. So we took that falcon in honor of our merger with Volusia County Community College. So if you didn't know why we're the Falcons, we were Falcons because to honor our history with that. So we talked about how we want to do that, and almost create a Daytona State College History Month of some sort, where we highlight all of these things that we've been doing, because sometimes over time people forget. And it's important, and we want to keep that at the forefront. So I don't want to keep talking because we've got a lot of things going on that are real good, a lot of good conversations with I think things that you'll see us be able to roll out. Obviously, COVID-19 is also, the timing thing is making it a little difficult to put things in action in terms of in-person type of things we envision doing soon. So that's part of, I think, it. But we have a lot of good. What I told the group is, let's not let this, we can plan. We can always, we still do a lot of planning, and we can begin to execute as things get better in terms of the pandemic and our ability to gather and get people together. So I think I've covered most of it, but I'll stop there because I don't want to monopolize the conversation.
No. And Tom, thank you for that brief history walk, because I really appreciate that. And I see a lot of other heads nodding because there's so many pieces that I wouldn't have known. I know Josie wants to say something, and then I have a few questions for you, if you don't mind.
And hi, thank you for sharing. I did have a question about, and I don't know if you know this right offhand, the Law Enforcement Academy. Are there classes built in about understanding different cultures and how different cultures have been affected by law enforcement? And I did share an article on the side. I'm at work and the firewall won't let me open it, but I think this is the right article that Chitwood did a lot of training with the Daytona Beach police officers and understanding when you go into a home, the negative effect that has happened for generations and their response. So I was wondering if you have classes like that, because I do think that's a big step and super important.
It is. It's those types of content is interwoven in many courses throughout the curriculum. So it's not just one specific course on that, but it's interwoven into all of the courses as they go along. So yeah, there. Again, it's kind of the way it was explained to me. That's a menu of things you can choose to insert into the curriculum, and I asked all those same questions, and that one in particular. And yes. Those topics and content are addressed in the curriculum.
And so, thank you. Was there a follow-up, Josie?
No, I'm sorry. I have to jump off now. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and put the resources that I gathered from another training on the side here. So when you guys get to that part of the conversation.
Thank you for being
I'm
the best
sorry,
teacher
guys.
of the year.
Oh gosh, we're all doing the same work here. We're trying.
Thank you. Tom, and then I don't know if we had other hands. I'm trying to keep up with maybe Teresa can help me with the chat as well, my partner. So Tom, I did have a question. In addition, again, thank you for the history walk and for the time spent, because I hadn't even thought of the law enforcement department and the curriculum that helps to effectively create or grow, right, law enforcement in the future, and how important that is. But as you talked about the equity office, how do the students work with the equity office, if at all? What is that connection, if at all?
So The equity office has a part of our orientation program so that every student, as part of their onboarding to the college, has information that Lonnie presents to the entire student body. And then what he does a lot of individual meetings throughout the college, like with athletics, our athletic department. We have about 200 athletes that he'll do presentations to the athletic department to get to those students. And then he's very involved in our student success course, and where he is able to engage with students as well in talking about our equity programs and things that we have here at the college. So, and he is that, sounding board and the committee, because we're a big college, one person can't do it himself. Yeah. So committee, we have program. We have a program. It was started out as the Men of Color Initiative, mostly. Yeah, and it still is in existence. They changed the name to Men of Character Initiative, but it continues to grow, and it's actually grown and is a group that we can that we bring on campus, and we do all kinds of activities with them throughout the year. And we have resources that we support that club, and we send them to conferences and all kinds of things throughout the year. And with resources, when talking to the diversity committee today, I said, if we can get this mentoring program, and I said, law enforcement is just one thing we do, and to the Law Enforcement Academy, and to the chief and the deputy chief, I said, let's say we create a junior academy, and I was talking about, like, let's get 6th graders involved, right. And not because I think that's an important year to begin to expose students to opportunities and Daytona State. But I said, if the Law Enforcement Junior Academy can be a vehicle to get students on campus, and we're gonna get resources to get students on campus, because we think get them on campus, but you're not going to convince every student to be a law enforcement person, and that's okay. If we use it as a vehicle and we expose them to our computer science department or our health department, and they go and choose to be something else, that's great. Mission accomplished. And I said, even if they choose to go to another university, mission accomplished. So it's not about recruiting just a Daytona State. It's more about bringing students on campus to expose them to the vast majority of things. And I mentioned that to the diversity committee. So it's like two-pronged. We got the law enforcement, maybe initiatives we're going to do, but then our diversity committee is a broader, where I said to the group, I said, you have all the resources here at the college, and you got my commitment to let's leverage it and let's get into the community, and we'll find some resources. If we have to get vans to get students on campus, let's do it. So yeah, those are some of the things that
I appreciate that. Thank you. And as you're talking, I'm looking at that K-12 connection. I'm looking at Patricia with the Department of Health, like all of that coming together and moving forward and starting at a younger ages, right? In stages.
Yes.
Move us forward.
Often we focus in colleges, we focus on the high school age kids.
Right.
But, and our mission as the community's college, we need to take it to I think I want to recruit students as a graduating elementary school into the 6th grade and get them on campus to some kind of programming.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And needed. Thank you. So just going back to our original question, I don't see any other hands up or. Yes. Teresa?
Yeah, two things. One, Tom, you mentioned the equity report. Can you tell us where we could see that? Right. Is it on the website? Is there somewhere?
I will share it with the group. It should be on our website. I believe it's published. But I'll be honest, I don't have it memorized exactly where it might be at the moment.
It's a test.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Tom.
But I will get that to the group. But
Mayor Henry will give you the test.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. But and
then the second, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, and like I said, it covers our. You'll see in there it covers our employment and how we're represented even at like senior staff level, all administrators, professional and career employees, and then it also covers the student body as well.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And
And
then-
so if Mr. Butler or Ms. Boswell, if you have a link as well, we'd love to see that, share that, because we're gathering that information in the mayor's office.
And just a Zoom tidbit, because I know we shared it in the business group and a lot of people didn't know it. Robin King mentioned it this morning. If you go, because Josie just put a ton of resources in the chat room, Primrose. So
I
if
see
you
them on the
don't
right.
know, you can go to those 3 little dots where it says to everyone, click on those 3 little dots and a Dropbox will come down that says save chat, and it will save everything to your computer. Now, if you need help finding it, you'll have to call me, but it will be there.
Yeah,
So
excellent.
you don't have to frantically try to write all those things down. That's it.
Good stuff. Dr. Henry, Stephanie, did you have a comment? I saw you shaking your head.
Well, actually, as long as I've been on Zoom, I didn't know that you could save the chat. So thank you.
All right, that's good.
That's good.
But I would
I like it.
And Josie's gone. I'm very excited about her initiative that she's pursuing. But I would like to add that, I'm excited about the equitable curriculum, but it's just imperative that we use equitable engagement strategies as well for our students, because a lot of times they fall behind because there are many different modalities of teaching our students. And if we're just stuck with lecture style, for example, and our students aren't getting it, then that's a problem. So yeah. So equitable engagement strategies in the classroom from the beginning, from the start.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Do we have any additional comments in this particular area? Yes, Maggie? I just can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so my question is, there's a lot of great work being done. Josie seems like she's everywhere at once. I don't know how she's doing it. But, is this going to lead to district-wide professional development across Volusia County schools? Is this something we're just doing at our own schools? Does this have the support of superintendent and administrators? How are we sharing all of this information to all of our teachers?
Let me opine on that. The objective of the initiative overall is first to get those of us who are engaged to be ambassadors for this process of equity. My objective, because all of this, all domains run together, and they really all belong in one pot, whether it's education or whether it's a neighborhood, because at the end of the day, we want to improve everyone's opportunity. But it will only go as far as we take it as individuals, and then whatever our spheres of influence are. So principals, obviously from all of the Daytona Beach schools, have been invited, and most are participating, because I recognize that they are the change agents in their institutions, just as all higher education. And it's great to see Dr. Labasso and Dr. Butler with us again. It shows their commitment to equity, that they've been with us on, I think, 3 occasions now, or at least 2 occasions being here, but it's important to their institutions. So I believe that every individual, though, is a policymaker, and every individual has influence as it relates to equity. Some have more by virtue of their positions, and we want to see what they're doing and support what they're doing as a body. We want to encourage them in what they're doing. We're not here to try to call people out, because if someone shows up to these sessions, they are already committed to this work in some way. So our goal is to support one another, encourage one another, and inform the community. But certainly, by all means, the last thing I want to say, and we'll talk about this later, is we want to be ambassadors. So, if I do want to expose what we find here to folks in the diversity and equity division in the public schools, but we're going to create resources and a resource page that we will continue to share. But all of this is organic. It doesn't belong to Mayor Henry. It belongs to this group and this community, and it will go where we take it. Okay, if that answers your question.
Yeah, and what I find, thank you, Mayor Henry, and what I have found, especially in this work, is oftentimes there are several silos, right? And all of these hidden gems are going on across the county, and we don't necessarily know about them. And to hear them now, and I know that, I believe, were you on the call last time? And are you a teacher, Becky? Yes, right. And so you're an educator and you're hearing things for the very first time, right? But you're part of the K-12 system. And so what could be happening is different schools are taking initiatives and they're executing their passion in doing so, but we're not coming together. And then I know as, I'm no longer with VUE, but I was as the professional development specialist. And so I still do work, and now I'm on the state level. But what I'm finding is all of that good work could be done together, right? And so there are programs that VUE offer in the areas of culturally responsive pedagogy, where we talk about what Stephanie has spoke of with engagement, right? Equity engagement from the beginning, from day one. I know that the district as a whole not only has an equity department, but there is the cultural diversity courses that are taught throughout the school year as well. But what we noticed is when it was open and then no mandate or no particular initiative was made, folks didn't sign up, right? So the offerings were available and then no one really came to the party, right? So you get the invite, but no one really came. And so what we're noticing now is there is definitely a change in that momentum. And with that change, it's important that, such as yourself, who says, I want to know more, I want to be that change agent. Maybe I'm the ambassador that approaches my administration and says, I would like to see this in our schools. You know, the last conversation we had, we talked about equity in the curriculum and different ways, even to teach African-American history. And I posed the fact that actually it's a mandate, right? African-American history was supposed to be infused in our curriculum, I don't know, many years ago when I taught English, right? And that's 20 years ago. So some of those things are there, and it's going to be our job, and it starts right here to come together and move that work forward. So anything that you hear, unlike a really nice gift that you may get, I say share it, right, with everyone, and ensure that this particular platform is shared, but also the work that we're doing, right? So like even hearing Dr. Labasso talk about the history walk of Daytona State, not only have I taken courses at Daytona State, my son is taking courses at Daytona State, and there were so many pieces I had never heard, right? But as a guidance counselor, many times I helped folks enroll, right, into Daytona State. Now I just have a better view and a better take of, wow, when they are enrolled, this is what they get, right? The richness of their history from generations before, and broadening that conversation for not only the student, but their families as well, right? And so that's the type of gifts that we're able to share on this platform. Okay, thank you. That was a very good question, very, very good. Are there any other statements, comments in this particular area until we move on to the next? So Mayor Henry has spoke of it a time or two, and that is on the area of equity ambassador. And I think maybe one or two of the folks on higher ed spoke of equity ambassadors, but I want to hear how many of you have heard of that particular term or terms similar, and what do you think can be done in that area of getting folks signed up to become equity ambassadors? I see a lot of smiling faces. Any equity ambassadors on school levels, university levels? Dr. Butler, do you have equity ambassadors?
I'm not sure. You have to define it for me because there's so many different terms that are used in these. If you wouldn't mind, it would help.
Right. So I don't have a Webster definition.
Well, just in general.
Yeah. So the general take, as I've been speaking to different districts across the state, is there are individuals that they sign up or they ask to become an equity ambassador by taking so many in-service points or credits toward knowing more about race and equity in their classrooms and in their schools, and they kind of work towards a badge, right, of honor that says, I'm an equity ambassador. And if there are additional questions or they need more of an active voice in those areas, that's the go-to person.
Yeah, so we don't necessarily refer to them by that term, but we have some, I guess you refer to it as badges or courses or content that are primarily right now, I think right now it's for the faculty, it's through the provost office, but I can get you some information on that. But we don't refer to it. That's a nice term though, I like it. But,
right, it was, yeah, I stole it.
Yeah. But we do some different things, different content type material that goes into it.
Nice.
And it's, we have requirements for I think everybody, but there's also additional building blocks I think on top of that. But I'll get you some content.
And that's voluntary, right? So if a person chooses.
Yeah.
I like it. Thank you so much, Miss Gagnier, Cassandra. I don't want to mess up your name.
Oh, you're good. So I'm here just as a citizen of Daytona Beach, and I have a daughter in Volusia County Schools. I actually teach for Brevard County Schools. I teach for Brevard Virtual, so I get to live here while I still work down there. And I was already prepared for all this transition online, so that's helpful.
Right.
So yeah, I'm not a part of any official capacity, but I feel like what you're describing, I've almost started to take on. We moved into the Midtown neighborhood here in Daytona Beach. We live just a few streets away from Bethune-Cookman. Our daughter was zoned for what Volusia County Schools calls the island or the islands. So even though we live next to, we're less than a mile away from Terry T, she's zoned for a school up in Ormond. I believe it's Pine Trail. So I was able to get her waiver so that she could stay here at Terry T. But I've been trying to talk with other parents at Terry T. I was able to have a phone call meeting with Miss Ida Wright, our school board rep. Just trying to, I know the school board is, before COVID, they were talking about how could we change busing and change zoning for students so that they wouldn't have to leave the neighborhood. And now COVID happened, and so that's kind of changed the narrative right now. But I feel like I've kind of taken that on as a personal role that it's just so sad to me that, we moved into this neighborhood and like every other street, students are going to a completely different school. Just the zoning, there's, 12 different schools that students are zoned for here in Midtown. So yeah, even with my daughter going to a school, less than a mile away, the next street over, they're going to a school in Port Orange and then Ormond. So really just trying to see equity in students being able to go to their neighborhood school and their neighborhood school being well equipped for them as well. I had read Ibram X. Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist, and on his schooling chapter, he was talking about what if instead of integrating bodies, we integrate materials, we integrate the what the school needs to actually run well, the supplies, the people, the teachers, that we fund the schools equally and well, equitably, instead of feeling like students need to be bussed out of Midtown to go to better schools. What if they were all good schools? So yeah, we kept my daughter here at Terry T. We absolutely love Terry T. Trying to figure out what to do here in the fall right now with schools. But yeah, I've been trying to speak up for the students in the neighborhood that, let them know they have options to stay here in the neighborhood, and how can we fund and care for Terry T as well as the other schools.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Cassandra. Mayor Henry, did you have any comments on the zoning of schools or anything in that area?
I know that's more county than the city.
I know, but.
Well, I will say that it's a valuable opportunity. We all believe in neighborhood schools, which is why, I'm obviously fighting and just receiving a text message from board member Persis, because there's, and I saw Sarah Lee on the call, but, I want to keep the school here in Daytona Beach that's on Beachside, and there's a decision as to whether the school will be on our end of the county or the Ormond end. But neighborhood schools are valuable for 100 reasons. Having gone to one that I walked to for the first 6 years of my life, it was extremely valuable. But when we talk about equity, we know that busing in disenfranchised communities is always outward and much less inward. So it would be okay if that was a situation that we thought was equitable, but I don't think that it is, because I do believe that it's not a bad experience to be bussed out, but it's not a fair experience when your community is the only one that's being bussed out, because we all need to experience one another. And sometimes we have to go into other neighborhoods to experience their neighborhood and to take our experiences into that neighborhood, or to take who we are into that neighborhood. Having gone to historically, I guess we would call it a historically white institution for college, that was always my thought process as an undergraduate student at Rollins. You know, I was the beneficiary of their experiences, and they were the beneficiaries of my experience. And I enjoyed that experience because I felt like they came with something to give, and they did it for the most part in that environment without judgment. And I tried my best to do the same.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Are there additional comments or suggestions in the area of equity ambassador?
Primos,
Yes.
yeah, I think, we have mentors that are part of that MOSI's program that I talked about. So, we have a cadre of individuals that become mentors for students in that program. We do an equity training throughout the college, and then our professional development office also does additional training in diversity throughout the year. But so we do have mentors that are we don't call them equity ambassadors, but they're mentors for the MOSI's program, and advisors as well for students.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah. That's a fancy title.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for having further discussion in that area, especially we talk about not only equity in classrooms, but equity on campuses, equity in schools, and equity in neighborhoods, right? And what that really looks like. So I think that we've created that framework of thought. And the next question that I'd like to move into, and I'd like Michelle, put you on the spot, Michelle McCoy, but to kind of share the work that you've been doing in the collection of resources. And I've known Michelle over 20 years, but I was scrolling through Facebook, as many of us do, and I noticed that during the time of the peaceful protest, there were a lot of individuals just expressing their current feelings, emotions, and how to further share that with other people, right? And what was the platform for that? And Michelle McCoy at that time started a collection of resources, and we kind of moved forward from there. So Michelle McCoy, if you can kind of share some of your work.
I sure will, thank you. So as Primrose mentioned, we had been talking about on several different Facebook groups that popped up after George Floyd and everything that happened. We have a couple different anti-racist ones. There's one in DeLand, there's Volusia County, there's a couple. And so one thing that I saw that a lot of people were having a difficulty with is they want to address racist comments that they hear, especially online, but they're not quite sure what to say and how to do it. Because as a redhead, I tend to be a little tiny bit, fiery. So you can't just go after someone though and lay it out too boldly if you want them to hear you. So I kind of stepped back, read a bunch of articles, and then just typed up a document that had common things that I was hearing and seeing people say that needed to be addressed, and then giving answers that have a source there that people can use so that We are no longer letting those little things slide, because that's what a big piece of what a lot of allies wanted to do was to they always wanted to address those issues, but didn't know how. And so this is a way to address those issues in a reasonably polite and educational way, so you're not attacking. And we recognize we may not be heard by a lot of people. Some people just don't want to hear what you have to say on the topic. But I think it's still important that we try. And so the document that I made is exactly that. So if someone says all lives matter, well, there's a couple of ways you can respond to that based on how, and you can of course adjust to fit your needs. Or you hear someone say, gosh, there's so many of them, but she doesn't sound Black. Okay, this is a microaggression. We need to deal with that. You know what I mean? So those sorts of things need to be addressed. And I have noticed people online are not letting those things slide like they used to, especially with like older relatives, right? So, and it is really hard to say those things to your relatives and to people that you love. But you also, I think it's important as a growth mechanism for everyone to stop letting those things slide, let them continue. Even if they ignore you, at least you've said your piece, they read your piece, they may not do anything about it, but they've heard it. So I'm going to try to link it to you in the comments, this document, and we'll see if that works. I'll give it a shot, and if not, I will, it all follows fails, I'll email it to Sherry, it's just so you can email it out. But it's a PDF
Excellent.
document, so you don't have to worry about format or anything like that. It'll work no matter how you open it. So there you
Excellent.
go.
And we'll be able to save it, as Teresa has.
Yes, that is correct.
I like that. I like that. All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. Teresa, would you like to share some of the work that Boss Lady and Sisters Bill are doing?
Sure, I'll be glad to.
Reading.
Many of you may know or may not know that Primrose runs an organization in her spare time called Sisters Build. And I run an organization called Boss Lady, and there's a lot of similarities in our two organizations. And one of the things that Primrose and I have been talking about, we figured for 5 or 6 years, I think the last time we chatted, is how to bring these two groups together more often. Primrose's group is primarily Black, my group is primarily white. You know, we've tried different things, we've gotten together different ways, but when the George Floyd murder happened, we immediately reached out to each other, and I've been having Zoom calls since March with my ladies every Thursday night, and we have some type of educational subject, if you will, around women's issues and women's initiatives. But Primrose and I brought our two groups together, and we're in our tonight is our third session. We're using the book, and it's not a book study, but we are using the book. And Michelle, a lot of what you said resonated because of the terms in the book called White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. And we're using the workbook and the worksheet that came with that book. And just a quick side note, Primrose sent me this book 6, 7, 8 months ago. She texted it to me. I was like, oh, well, I guess I need to read this. So
I didn't say anything else but here.
That's it. No comment. Just sent me the book, the link to the book. But I read it, and we had over 50 people show up the first time. And I think I said this on Monday's call. The second time we had a little over 20, and we don't know what we'll have tonight. But my concern is that we don't stop doing what we're doing. You know, we don't see Mr. Floyd in the news all the time anymore. We don't. So, and I'll just speak for me, you know, if I disappear and decide to go back to being silent, my life really doesn't change. And there are a lot of people like me out there. So we can't stop doing. We can't stop showing up, whether it's to the mayor's initiative or, you know, the work Michelle's doing, the work that Primrose and I are doing. So all of you are invited. It's on Primrose's Facebook, it's on my Facebook for the Zoom calls. And you don't have to have read the book. It's just the overview. And there's once a month, Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. So if you follow either of us on Facebook, you'll see it.
Or Teresa, if you can put in the link maybe in the chat as well.
I tried, and I can't get it down to download to the chat for some reason. I tried for the mayor the other day.
Okay.
Right. Mayor, I did direct message it to you, but it's in all the Facebook. So
Yeah,
You can
thank
see
you.
my name right there and look me up on Facebook. I'll accept your
Yeah.
friend request.
Thank you so much. And, just to piggyback on what Teresa said, in this work, I always share the fact that eventually, no time soon, because I still look like I'm 20, but eventually, right, when I retire, right, Patty, I want to be like you. I want to get to the point where I would have left the place, the location, my community better than the way it found me. And that's one of the reasons why I became an educator, right? Because I wanted to further assist when I figured out what I wanted to do. I wanted to further assist the next generation. And so that's why this work is so important to me. And it's so important that we no longer stay in the same silos as we were discussing a little while back and come together and put these pieces together, right? Like the puzzle that's missing the piece in the center. Like, where did it go? Well, we know where it is, right? It's within each of us. And so the next and really the last area that I wanted to share and kind of put out there for everyone to think of is, with everything that has been said this afternoon, what do you see as actionable items, right? If we had that wand and we weren't talking about dollars or needing grant funding and different things to make changes in our either to make changes or to further enhance the current conditions in our organizations, industry, or business, what would actionable items be? As based on everything that you've heard, what would the next steps be for this particular initiative? Patty?
I just wanted, excuse me, to go back to what you were just talking about the book chat. And I think that's, excuse me, really invaluable. It was for me. And I can't even remember the books that I've read to tell you the names, but getting inside of people's heads, what they're thinking and how it's different from I may have been thinking, and finding out things that are really hurtful and realizing, I didn't even know that that was not a good thing to say, or this seemed really helpful to me and a couple of friends who've, read some of the same books, that it gives you a whole different view of how we're really more alike than different, for sure. But there are certain little things that being white, I would never think was something that I shouldn't, I don't know, talk about or say, or phrases or things that I never even imagined Black people had to go through. And it's just been very eye-opening, and you can see from the other side, you can empathize with people, because now oh my gosh, what they've gone through has been horrid. And I always knew it was horrid from slavery on, but I didn't realize that to this day, lots of people make snide remarks and say things that I probably never even heard, but Black people heard. And it was it was just amazing how it helped me think about things differently.
Thank you so much, Patty, for your transparency. I truly appreciate that. Stephanie?
I agree wholeheartedly with what Patty just said. And just to elaborate, I would say that creating that safe space so that people are comfortable about being transparent. They're comfortable speaking, as she said, about their experience and about, things that they don't know. But speaking about their experiences, sharing just different things about their culture. And I mean, each culture, not just all Blacks together or all whites together, but everybody together in one safe space. Yeah, I think we'll learn a lot that way. And also not just having the conversation, but coming out with, you said this earlier in the beginning, Primrose, you said about having actionable steps to take. But having those, we can call them workshops or whatever we want to call them, but coming out with measurable and quantifiable outcomes. Like, what did you learn? What, you know, so yes, that's what I have to say.
Mayor Henry, you have some work to do. Thank you, Stephanie. Mayor Henry has some work to do. I'm writing that on his to-do.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So definitely measurable and actionable next steps. And the workshops, I think, would be advantageous as well, because I'm still going back. Sorry, Tom, I keep diverting to you, but I'm thinking of this history walk like I never knew. You know, I'm a graduate of Stetson University. I'm a graduate of Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman, of course, we learn the history from beginning to end, through and through, right? Stetson University, I did the same. And so to hear this and being able to put those pieces together for our students to be better prepared when they come on those campuses, you know, what great work that is. And so I'm just really excited about how we can put those pieces together. And Tom, when you mentioned going in sixth grade, right? I just pictured like hosting that opportunity for the sixth graders to come over to school, learn more, because I know my son is 25 now, but in his younger years, right? You wanted to expose your children to everything that you could, and that would give them even more value to what higher education actually means. And Dr. Butler, the same with Embry-Riddle, and just walking the campuses and better communicating what it is. You know, when we see the Falcon, or, you know, we're at Embry-Riddle and we see planes, we kind of just become narrow, and that's all we see and that's all we know. So just being able to better expose them to so many gems, hidden gems again, that are on your campuses, I think is really, really a good idea. And at such an early age, right? I think that's really, really important. And Dr. Stephanie, if you could share, please, I know last time, and we'll end with the actionable steps, but I know last time you mentioned one of your books, The Enrage Us, right? I don't know the full title, but it sparked a lot of thought, right, on what our students may be experiencing and what we can do as individuals to create a better platform. Can you share with us more about that?
About the book particularly?
Yeah, why that's important.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, the book that she's referring to is, I am the author of, it's called Engage Us or Enrage Us, Schools Make the Difference. And the book is inspired by my son, who just turned 8 last week, or was it this week? Yeah, last week. And his experiences in school. And he has a fictional first cousin that doesn't have the same experience. They have so much in common. However, his experience isn't engaging at all. And like I spoke about earlier, just making sure that, yes, we have the curriculum that's equitable, but we also have these engagement strategies that are equitable as well, because this student, Johnny, was not able to excel academically because he was busy getting in trouble. Why? Because he was falling behind. He couldn't read. He didn't want to be called on. And so he worked on pretty much getting in trouble so that he could be put out. He was ready to be put out because it got him away from the curriculum that he wasn't engaged in at all. And so that's pretty much a synopsis. Well, I'll just end it and say this, that it is incredibly imperative that our students are engaged so that we can take them to the next level. All students, okay? Not just some students, but all students are engaged so that we can take them to the next level.
Yeah, and when they're not, we need to be able to identify, right, what those needs look like.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because oftentimes that may miss, you know, some individuals. And so that's important within education,
Right.
ensuring that if we're not able to easily identify, that we get the assistance needed to do so, and kind of work with them in those areas. And oftentimes it's because they do not see themselves, as we mentioned earlier, in the curriculum, right? And so, well, why is this important? It's not anything to do with me, right? This is not, I don't want to study this. And so a lot of times that's what occurs as well. So thank you, Stephanie, I appreciate that. And so when we come to a close, I know Mayor Henry, you had a few things or nuggets you wanted to share. And when we talk about these actionable items, and I know we've spent a lot of time today just further exploring even equity initiatives that are happening within various or a variety of K-12 and higher ed and in the health department, like so many areas that we never actually, well, I've never, let me just say for me, do I ever go to the equity section and click and see what it says? And if I did, was that maybe an assignment, right? And did I think that we would get to a time that's even more important than it's ever been? My answer would be no, right? But we are definitely in that time, and I'm encouraged in knowing that others believe the same. And I'm also encouraged because the equity initiatives were present, and for those that needed to be worked on or to be enhanced in any form, that work is being done as well. So I'm encouraged because there is movement, right? And we'll be able to do that together. Mayor Henry.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cameron, and thank you to each of you for joining us once again. We want to continue this work, but most importantly, I want to solicit each of you or enlist and ask that you would commit to becoming yourselves equity ambassadors. This is important work. And we don't have to go to class, because if we go through those resources and we just immerse ourselves in this work and we learn and we study and we exhibit the passion that this nation has exhibited as it relates to this issue, because that's what I see. When I see protests and I see movements, I see passion. I see people from all walks of life who are saying that we want to see opportunities that are fair and equitable across the board. We want to see an end to police brutality. We want to see schools that teach and respect those that they teach. And it's not that we want to call everyone out. So I don't want to simply preach, but I want to just ask you, because if you're here, I know that you believe in this mission. So now I'm asking that you would find ways to communicate the need. And it doesn't mean that we have to have all of the answers at one time, because I know we don't. But it's about having healthy conversations. It's about wanting a level playing field. And once we have those conversations and we can bring more people into the arena to discuss the topic, the better off we'll be. So please, please embrace equity. Number 2, go back and talk about ways, as Dr. Labasso was mentioning. I mean, he's got folks in there working on this. Jakari Young, who was on a conversation or a call this morning, he discussed things that he's doing to work on this particular item, an issue. And don't assume that we can do all of the work ourselves. We have to do it together. And then the final thing I want to say is that I am currently working on something that I think is really could turn out to be among the most important things that I've done during my tenure as mayor. I'm working with a young man who I've been in conversation with him for 2 years, and he's working on a platform that he's building. And the platform basically enables communities, universities to collect data, the data of those that we serve, and then to help those that we serve to have access to information that will help them to solve their problems. The platform will also help us, those of us who are policymakers, which I believe we are all policymakers, but it will help to inform our decisions because we will have data about those that we serve. So I'll give you an example of what he's working on, and we hope to unveil it. And I'm hoping that our community will be a part of this pilot project, and we'll soon begin raising private dollars because it's not going to be a free initiative. It's going to be a costly initiative, but one that I believe will enable our community to have access and to do the work that we want to see done, which is the picture. We want to give people what they need to see the game, to participate in the game, to attend the university, to have access to whatever it is that they want. And I refer to it in my spiritual life as the abundant life. In my professional life, I refer to it as to engage in and to be a part of the American dream. So if, for example, if we have a young lady who's a single mom of 2 children, and this young lady we have ambassadors who go out into the community and they sign up as many residents in Daytona Beach as they can get to sign up. They sign up as many businesses as they can get to sign up. We want all of our universities to, in some way, to bring their data into this resource. So we've got a young lady and she inputs her information and doesn't have to necessarily reflect her name because we're not trying to expose anyone by name. But her name is Sally, for example, and Sally inputs her data. Sally's got 2 kids. Sally wants to lose weight. Sally, one of her sons, wants to learn how to play basketball. Sally also needs childcare at night. She puts all of that information into this platform. Well, that's data that allows us to now make informed decisions about what our community needs. But because we have inputted and uploaded information about Daytona State, information about Bethune-Cookman, information about Embry-Riddle, information about Kaiser. We've also inputted, because we have businessmen and women in our community who want to serve her needs. We come to find that we have 100 women or 100 families who need childcare at night. Well, investors notice that because the data is collected. We know that we've got 100 folks that need childcare at night. So because investors know that, then they're more inclined to do what? Figure out how they can meet that need to make money. It's a win-win. We know the resources, the folks who teach and tutor. We know where community programs for basketball are. We know what time they are. Well, because of that, she now is able to simply, by putting her information in, putting her request in, the resources that she's looking for will be readily available to her. And then finally, think about it as a policymaker, me as a mayor. Because I know what the community needs, I can now begin to try to solve this problem in my own way and do as I develop and design policies that meet her needs. The final thing is she also wanted, remember, to lose weight, but she was a little, she didn't feel comfortable about herself. Well, Dr. Henry does a wellness class 4 days a week at home. That's uploaded into this system. She's doing that as a service to the community. It's free. This lady now has access to that information and that resource, and all I can't explain the system. He will come and explain it to all of our groups eventually so that we can understand how it can work in our community. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is it will marry her question and her quest to be able to solve these problems with resources, some of which are free, some of which cost money. But at the end of the day, if we're going to get to the point in the picture, we have to help everyone in our community be able to find the resources that they need to solve their problems and to pursue their dreams. So it's a tool that I'm extremely excited about. And as this process is an organic process, this whole initiative on equity takes life, be prepared in November for us to begin unfolding that. In fact, I spoke with him on yesterday, and he's going to actually unfold a part of it. The group on, what was it, on business? I think it was a group on business and media have decided that they want to go out into the community and hear from the neighbors and hear from the community about what it is that they want as it was health and social service. They want to know what folks in Daytona Beach want to know about social services. What resources do they want? What do they want social services to do to provide? What services do they want provided for them that will help close the equity gap? Well, he's going to create a miniature version of this platform for them to be able to collect that data and use it moving forward. So that's just another example of how this process is unfolding. What I will now do is I did 2 weeks ago, I will call Dr. Cameron and Ms. Stumpf and a few other people, and we will develop another email, and we will plan to meet sometime in probably September. But in the meantime, what I want you guys to do is to remember that if you have resources, share them with us at equityinitiative@codb.us. Go back to your various havens, enclaves. You know, if you haven't developed, work with those that are in. See, because what Josie went to, she hopped off this call. It was simply someone at our school, and we work at the same school, who wanted to do something about equity. So she called all of these folks together for a meeting. And basically, I'm asking us to do the same in our environments as equity ambassadors. Let's figure ways that we can bring equity to life, because at the end of the day, what I want Daytona Beach to be is a paradigm, a model city for equity. We can't do it without good health care. We can't do it without good public, private, K-12, higher ed. We can't do it without our churches. All of those domains have to come to life in this arena. So again, thank you. Dr. Cameron, do you have anything else?
No, as I'm spelling something wrong, an equity initiative at codb.us in the chat. I just want to say thank you guys so much. I know it has been, oh, Karen, you have a statement? Yes, Karen.
Yes, Mayor Henry, did you want to share the hashtag with them?
I did, and I was going to go, yes. We have decided as a group to use, and this is, we have to use social media. And I would encourage each of you, and those of you who are university presidents, your folks in your social media mediums, ask them to post, and our hashtag will be Daytona for Equity. Hashtag Daytona for Equity. And we want to promote the idea of equity. At some point in time, we'll have t-shirts made, and we want to brand ourselves. We want to move forward and say that this is a central core community value, something that we believe in, and something that we're not going to just do by just for a night, just for a season. You know, it's going to be for as long as I'm a part of public life, I hope that it will be an essential driving force behind all that we do.
Thank you so much, Karen and Mayor Henry. And I just want to say, it just made me think of, imagine a world where equity is trending, right? There are so many things in the world that are trending. Just imagine a world where equity is trending. And so just again, thank you guys for being a part of this platform for positive change in our community. And I definitely look forward to continue this work and hearing all of the great work that you're doing, but finding ways that we can connect within our organization and then outside of our organization, right? And just continue to hold hands as we move forward. So thank you again. Have a great evening. For those who are joining us, we have the conversation this afternoon, and there's just so many other things that we can do to continue to be that model and that equity for that equity change maker. I could change the name again, by the way, but yeah, there's so many names that we could use, but the ambassador for change. But next week, I'll probably come up with something else. So thank you guys. Look forward to just staying connected. Have a great afternoon.
Is the hashtag the word for or the letter or number 4?
Number.
I see both. Okay, thanks.
The number, okay, so Daytona for equity. All right, guys, have a great afternoon. Thank you. And I email there as well.
Okay. Good deal.
Thank you, Mayor Henry, for all the work that you do.